My brother, we are back, man. It's been a while. I
Yes, we
missed
are.
podcasting with you. I missed it, bro. I'm excited to do this. We finally have our groove. We finally have a plan of what we want to do. Look, man, everybody streams, right? We all know it. Everybody hits play on all our different apps. But right now, this is the podcast called Streamophile. John, what's Streamophile?
Bro, I have no idea. But
Nobody does.
I always go to Urban Dictionary when I need the definition to something that I don't know because they're always right.
Very
And
slippery
according to
slope.
Urban Dictionary, a streamophile is someone who really enjoys watching streaming media, be it live or on demand.
Welcome to Streamophile, the show where John and Ben watch the latest on all streaming platforms and let you know whether to stream it or skip it. We stream everything, so you don't have to.
This is look, little behind the scenes with it, man. We had to take a step back. You know, if you followed us on our previous show, Man Chatter, we started this, and now we talked about this probably for like the last 6 or 7 weeks, right? I
Yeah,
thought about going to school. That wasn't exactly my plan. This was always the thing I came coming back to. I love podcasting. I love talking shit with my friends. I love recording our conversations, and just talking about something. We needed to niche it down, and we found it, man.
absolutely.
Like we watch everything. We talk about it all the time. I was like, yo, man, let's just make it a podcast. And luckily, this was the one name that wasn't taken in the podcasting game, right? Like this is the
That which
one
is
name that wasn't
crazy. I
taken.
figured this would have been the one name that would have been taken already. Um, and so like this was pretty much born out of like the pandemic. I think that's when
Hmm.
everyone started watching more. You know, uh, everyone knows who.
Content.
Yeah, no, I can't even remember his name, but I remember the show. What was the dude's name?
Ted Lasso.
Uh, no, with the tigers.
Oh, Tiger King.
Tiger King, right?
Yes,
Like
yes,
that kicked
yes.
it off, like kicked off a ridiculous amount of new content because everyone was
Hmm.
home. And so people had more time to watch anything, whether it was good or bad. And that's when we kind of started talking about like, we were doing Mad Chatter at the time. But we decided, the more content that we watch because we were working from home or we were locked down or whatever the case was, we realized like, hey, we're watching a lot of content. And we were watching a lot already to begin
Yeah,
with. We would
yeah,
on our WhatsApp conversations or WhatsApp groups, we were always going back and forth. Like, hey, did you watch this? What did you think about that? There's a new show coming out. Uh, hey, th- last month you were telling me, hey, this show Wrexham is coming out, and we're both football fans. For those of you who don't
yep.
know, or cultured football is also soccer. For those of you in the
Soccer.
in the
Yep.
US, but so now I started watching Wrexham, and then yeah, we it's been about 6 weeks in the making. Where we decided, yeah, let's make this pod, let's do it right, let's kind of set it up how we want to set it up, uh, and
Hmm.
uh, and we're here.
Yeah, man, we're here. And look, we discussed this for a long time, right? Like, as opposed to the previous iteration, the version of it, I guess. We talked about it and discussed the plan. We really wanted to narrow it down and figure out exactly how we want to do it. And we kept asking ourselves, what's the only way we could start this pod? Right? Like what's the one, because it's how your first uh your first impression is your best impression, right? Like I was like, what are we gonna do? And we kept coming back to one movie, right? And it's you heard it in our intro.
One of my favorites of all
It's
time.
the fact that you say that bothers me. It was
It
the
shouldn't.
only way we could start it because it was a movie that for 23 years of my life shaped how I had a memory. And that movie was the illustrious, the legendary, the infamous Wild Wild West. Look,
Don't you
the way
love
we're
it?
going to talk about movies might be different than whatever podcast you ingest, you digest, you listen to. We're going to give you the story and the background of this movie while breaking it down. John and I have been friends for 25 years. I think since eighth grade, right? Eighth grade for me, ninth grade for you.
Yeah.
And this is one
No,
of the, I
eighth
think
grade
this
for me
might have,
actually.
yeah,
Playing
so
in front
seventh
of
grade for me.
I'm not gonna say his name, but yeah, playing ball in front of his house, our other
Yeah,
friend's
yeah, yeah.
house.
Yes. So that this might have been one of the first movies that you drove because you drove before I did because you're older. And you drove. I think you might have drove your mom's van, if I remember this correctly, right? I don't think you had the
Maybe at one
probe yet.
point.
Yeah, you had the van, and we drove to the Mall of the Americas movie theater in. Is that Southwest? Because Southwest, right?
I think that's Southwest. I can't believe I. It's been so long, and I think I put that memory out of my mind.
No,
Not that
son,
we
I
watched
remember.
the movie, that I drove my mother's van. Like my to me, the
Yes,
first car was the Probe.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
know.
did
But
drive her van.
there was a movie that I just saw. Real, real quick aside, there was a movie that I just saw that had that van in it, and I told my wife the story about it. But whatever. All right, so let's set the stage here. 23 years ago, the biggest actor of the 90s, right? A man we grew up watching on TV, on in every movie since like 1994, starting with Bad
Yeah,
Boys,
right.
was Wild. Okay, so I think. All right, I don't. I'm trying not to jump the shark, so I'm trying to keep my pace here. Movie came out in 1999. This movie came out in 1999, and we went. And I don't remember. Tell me if you remember this the same. There was nobody else in the movie theater, right? It was like a midday show, and we were just like in the back row, right? Is that right, or am I like completely misremembering the
No,
entire
you
thing?
are completely misremembering this. Now, this might have been close to opening weekend, so there were quite a few
Okay,
people there. The movie made $220 million on a like
right.
$170 million budget, which was a ton of money in 1999.
Yes.
And you know, we've talked about this over the years. Every time this movie comes up, Wild Wild West, and you're like, "Yeah, I remember how we walked out," and I never corrected you until recently because I'm like,
Very.
"What is this
Yeah.
dude talking about?" Like you, the movie traumatized you so much that you thought
Mhm.
that this is terrible. You thought we walked out. It was you. It was my
Yes.
brother, myself. There might have been one other person. It was four of us. And look, I'm gonna take
Don't
full
even remember
credit.
them.
I don't know if taking full credit is the right term, but it was my idea to go
Not,
watch the movie, and it was
yeah. I
definitely
mean, it
my
was Will
idea to
Smith.
stay.
Uh,
That's right,
Yeah, it was Will Smith.
exactly.
Yeah.
It was,
Yeah. Makes
and
sense.
we stayed, man. And I don't know if it was a packed house, but we weren't like the only four people there. There were
Well, I
people in the
totally do
theater,
not.
and we did not
Dude, I
walk out. You
swear to
might
God.
have wanted to, like, you definitely mentally checked out 10 minutes into the movie, but
Yeah.
we were there, and we stayed through the credits or until the credits got there. Yeah, we watched the whole thing.
I can I can't. Listen, here's how bad it is. I don't even remember the fact that we took your little brother to the. I in my mind it was just me and you going to the movie theater and sitting in the back row, and we jumped the back row like, yo, f this, I'm out. I've never had that experience with any other movie. It's ridiculous. All right. Before we get into the story, more into the story of how it all happened, let's break it down. Right. So how the movie starts is
Well, here,
ridiculous.
maybe
Right.
maybe before we get into that, I should give the people a
Yes. Yes.
synopsis if they don't already know
Yes.
what the Wild Wild West is about.
Yeah. Spoiler
Excuse
alert.
the drink of
Do we
water.
have to? Do we have to say spoiler alert for a movie that's
Spoiler
23
alert
years
for a
old?
movie that's 23 years old. Yeah.
Also available on
Sp-
Tubi is how we saw it.
that's right because
Yeah.
we are talking about streaming media and streaming shows and movies. This is still available on Tubi, which is completely free. And you just got to put up with commercials from time to time.
Yep.
So, Wild Wild West. Here we go. When President Ulysses S. Grant, played by Kevin Klein, learns that
Mhm.
diabolical inventor Dr. Arliss Lovelace, uh, who is the
Played by
most
Kenneth
southern
Branagh.
person, by the way, played by
Yeah.
Kenneth Branagh, is planning to assassinate him, he orders Civil War hero James West, played by Will Smith, and U.S. Marshal Artemis Gordon, also Kevin Klein, to arrest him.
Hmm. Hmm.
West's trigger happy personality doesn't always mesh well with that of the thoughtful Gordon, but they manage to work together. And with the help of a mysterious stranger, Salma Hayek,
Yeah.
West and Gordon close in on Lovelace.
Okay.
Um,
All right.
it doesn't spoil anything. I'm glad that's where it leaves it at. This is a
That's good.
wonderful
Yeah.
movie. Great
What's the
throwback.
runtime on one of your most favorite movies of all time, and a movie that traumatized me so dearly that I
1 hour and
completely
45
misremembered
minutes and
my.
7 seconds.
No,
And
that's
that's just going
7 seconds.
off of Tubi. I didn't even
Okay.
look that up. I just remembered what
Yeah. Yeah.
Tubi
Just go with
had.
that. Yeah. So
That might be
look,
commercials included.
again, any movie that we review, any TV show is going to be obviously behind the paywall on the streaming service, but we'll never talk about a movie that we have to pay for like separately. Like that comes later. Like I know Top Gun Maverick is out, but whatever. Um, look, man, it was. I tried to watch this movie rewatch this movie because I have not seen this movie in 23
Hmm.
years. I don't remember it being casually on TV in those 23 years. This movie starts and it is, was it Ted Levine, right?
Hmm.
Chase, played by he plays in the movie Bloodbath McGrath, the general of the Southern Confederacy, and he's like removing some blade from a scientist's neck, and his first line is, "I thought scientists were supposed to be smart." Immediately out, like in that moment, I was like, "How can I watch this movie?
Look, I was
How can?"
immediately in, by the way, because it starts with the scientist running through like a cornfield or something, running from
Yeah,
something, and then he
yeah,
trips and falls, and then this like it looks like a saw
yes,
coming at him. He's got this metal contraption around his neck, and this saw is just coming at him, and cuts his head off. And then yeah,
yes,
and then Bloodbath McGrath goes up to him and says, "I thought you scientists were supposed to be smart." And I was like, "I'm hooked. I'm in.
yeah,
I'm in this
yeah.
for the
No,
long haul. We're watching this movie."
immediately out. And Bloodbath McGrath has like the weird implant of like a speaker in
Like
his
a
ear. Very,
shoehorn or something in his ear.
yeah, very confusing because I'm thinking a speaker puts out music. I don't exactly know how it would receive sound. Whatever. Let's not get into the particulars here.
Yeah.
It is, here's, so then after that, because that it does kind of does like a cold open in the movie, and then it goes into the opening credits. Now the opening credits, look, man, I'm gonna criticize this movie the entire way. Okay, the opening credits have scene of just Will Smith walking down a street with like his gun and like different like portraits, right? Like he's what images that never happen in the movie. Don't give you any background as to who he is initially, right? So I had to like watch it like I'm watching it for the first time. None of those scenes and those images make any sense because he never has a shootout with anybody. I don't remember him shooting that gun that he has in his hand that often to even be a thing. And he shows the gun plenty of times. Like when he goes to the White House later on, he pulls it out, and the Secret Service is like, or one
Yeah.
of the like butlers or whatever. He goes, "You gonna take this gun, or what about this one?" That's it. Shows like three different guns. Don't remember him shooting any of them to any semblance. We like, oh wow, he really shot a lot of weapons. It was a lot of
You see,
fight scenes.
this is how you and I remember. That's how I know that you're not a student of film, and neither are the people that give it 60% on Rotten Tomatoes, because
16.
that
Let's clarify.
introduction, right?
One
That
one
opening montage is what that is.
one
All right,
six
let's use the
one
proper
six.
terminology.
Yes, montage.
The
Correct.
opening montage of him, like in those different scenes. No, this is based off like a 1960s show, right? And a
Correct.
1960s film that came before it, Wild Wild West. And he's a, as I said in the synopsis, he's a hero of the Civil War. And so that's what those images are alluding to, giving you a little bit of Jim West, the shoot first, shoot some
Ask
more,
questions
and then when everyone's dead, maybe think about asking some questions.
like Ulysses S. Grant says in
um,
the White House.
like
Yes.
the president says, yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
That's the background. It's telling, kind of showing you who he is, and the character that he plays. I thought it was very tastefully done, very well done. And again, like
You heard.
it was like some of those images were like sort of like a comic book style or something. I really,
Yes.
again,
Yes.
I liked it. I enjoyed it. I don't know if you're familiar with steampunk, but this is a steampunk western. Uh,
Yes.
so if you know, if for those of you that don't know what steampunk is, it's essentially like um, reimagining technology from like the American West or the Victorian era, so 18th century, 19th
Hmm.
century. I'm sorry, from the 1800s to like the early 1900s, and like thinking back or using different mechanisms, technology that was steam powered. So like back in those days, like a lot of H.G. Wells stuff was
Yes.
uh, uses those same mechanisms. Like it uses the steampunk some subgenre because it's just a subgenre of science fiction. And so I've always liked steampunk, and you see it, not right away. Like that's what caught my eye about the movie, and that whole the scientist getting his head cut off. I was like, wait, what is this? Like, this is supposed to be 1869 Louisiana is what it was. I think that's what it says in the
Yes.
opening scene.
Yes. Hmm.
It's like, what kind of voodoo and magic are you guys using right now? So I already knew right away that it was a steampunk western. and that's why I enjoyed the movie. It's why I looked at this movie through a different lens than you and most people did. And if you actually go online and look at some of the top steampunk movies of all time, it's got to be in the top 10, top 20, top 5, depending on what sites you go to. I'm sure if you go to other sites, it'll be in like the bottom 5 and bottom 10. But I liked it for the steampunk aesthetic.
Okay. Look, I if you go through that lens, yes, I'll give you that, right? But the lens of my eyes that I used watching this movie, it it was the reason why I
You
had a
know, human eyes, the
hu-
ones that
the
everyone
human
else
eyes,
used.
the ones that everybody else uses, like the 16%, the 84% of people who agree with me that have the same eyes as me. Um, it was hard to grasp that Will Smith can do this movie that was so bad that like makes me misremember most other projects that he did after that. Right? Like I thought this like and rewatching it, I was just like, how do you say yes to this? Right? Like there's a scene because this is first of all took notes and everything here. There's this
Okay.
I took notes and it has what is it? It got Will Smith in that barrel of water, right? In that huge tower of water. There's a scene where like he falls and they first of all the scene is he falls, he's butt naked, right? And he falls, and
Right.
for some reason the director decides to shoot him from the front. So, but they blur out his crotch, his like genitalia as he's falling. Like just shoot him from the back. Like why are you gonna like shoot him from the front? Like that was a weird shot. Then he's fighting
Yeah.
these dudes butt naked with like a hat. It just none like immediately just none of it made sense. Immediately none of it made sense, John. And yes, steampunk and all that stuff. Yes, I give you that. But it just the amount of talent that was in this movie, it should not have been this bad. It shouldn't have. And
What
it's why
what if I
we
told
rate
you?
what
What
um
if I told you? And I know that our ratings are, you know, stream it, skip it, or if it's just, you know, too
terrible.
too heinous, like
Yes.
the crimes committed on
Egregious.
SVU episodes. If it's too
Yes.
egregious, we're gonna rate it a
Yes.
Wild Wild West. Um, but again, you and I
Yes.
are gonna disagree. I understand the rating because it's 60% on Rotten Tomatoes, but you and I are gonna disagree. I think this should be about a 75 on Rotten Tomatoes.
Listen,
But
I don't know. There's that part of me that like
different
we've been
lens.
friends for a long time. A different lens. There's that part of me that we've been friends for a long time, and I wonder if you're trolling me, and if you are, I hate you.
Because I give
Um,
you great recommendations on shows and movies, right?
yeah. You definitely do, bro. But this movie was. We can get into like the stuff. This movie just none of like he. I'll give you examples of why this movie never made sense. Right. The whole thing is like, oh, we got to save the scientists. Tell me one of the scientists' names, John.
Escobar,
The
Rita's
Salma
husband.
Hayek's husband. Yeah,
That's
that's
right.
it. How bad was Salma Hayek in this movie? Felt like she
The
was reading
worst.
the lines
The
off of
worst.
cardboard.
We should rate it, stream it, skip it, or Salma Hayek in Wild Wild West.
Yes, there should be a fourth rating. Salma Hayek. It was so bad. I'm watching this. I was like, why is she screaming her lines? Like, what is happening? Yes,
But do you
Jim.
think it
You
was
are
on
right,
purpose?
Jim.
It was overly bad. Like she was overly acting on purpose. Do you think that's a
And like
possibility?
she must have not got along with anybody else. Like she must have hated every like what's messed up about it. That was the best take she had. Like, because no, I don't assume any director, producer, studio goes out to make a bad movie, right? Like
Right.
these things just kind of happen. Like somebody in
Hmm.
editing at some point decided, yeah, this is the best take Salma Hayek gave us. This is what we
Right.
need to do. Like her acting alone was 16% on Rotten Tomatoes. Will Smith was just was Will Smith of the 90s in this movie, right? But I don't remember, and I tried to look at it with fresh eyes, right? I took my contacts off, with my glasses on, felt more comfortable. I mean, like try a fresh set of eyes here. But he has a back and forth with Loveless that should have been funny when he's making fun of his height, like how me and you banter.
Look, by the
But
way, I have those notes. I love that
yes,
scene when they're going back and forth at
go ahead,
that
break it
ball.
down.
All right, because to me that was incredible. Because that's what Will Smith of the '90s, or pretty much any Will Smith movie that's not a serious
Yes,
movie, is, right. A lot of these like just one-liners or these back and forth like conversations that are supposed to be witty,
facts.
and so yeah. I mean, look, I'm gonna say a word here, but it starts off with a rough word. So
Go ahead.
Will Smith
Uh,
is coming down. He's coming down that grand stairway,
yes.
and Loveless kind of turns around in his wheelchair. We'll call it that. I guess that's what it was.
Yeah.
And he goes, Captain West, I haven't seen you in a coon's age.
Yeah.
And I was like, I
Yeah.
mean, like, I remember watching that in the theater, and I like kind of like just kind of like closing my eyes, and I'm thinking like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then Will Smith replies with, well, a man of I can understand a man of your stature can't keep up with half the people you know, which, whatever. It's an obvious dig.
Well,
He's short,
yeah.
he's half his size, and he's lost his legs, so he can't keep
Yeah.
up with these people. And and obviously we're not spoiling anything. This movie's 24 years old, 23 years old.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
Loveless replies with, well, I wouldn't want you to be a slave to your disappointment. To
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
James West or Jim West replies, well, I wouldn't want to cut the legs out from under you. And then, I mean, that exchange between them, just like these, one talking about, obviously the racial side with Loveless, because Loveless is a Confederate scientist turned
Yes.
maniacal, the want to take over the world,
Yes.
whatever evil
Egomaniacal
doer.
sociopath. Yeah.
Right. So he's always digging at West with the racial. I was gonna say racial undertones, but there's no undertones about it.
There's no
And
undertones. It's full
then
tone. It's full
West
tone.
is coming back at him with, you have no legs. I've got no legs. I've got no legs.
Yeah.
It's a different movie, but yeah. So he's attacking the fact that he's missing his legs. I thought it was hilarious, and watching it now, I gained an even deeper appreciation for that back and forth that they had. I thought that was like my favorite part of the movie.
That was the best.
And
That's the thing though. Like that was the best part of the movie. Like their
another
banter and
another
their
thing, by the way, this
yes.
movie is, you don't understand. This movie is on deeper levels that you
Don't
or
do this.
I don't think
No.
anyone watching this that gave it a
No.
60% on
No.
Rotten
No.
Tomatoes can understand,
No.
because I need you to understand this, okay?
Okay.
I'm going
Here
to
we go.
give you some information right now,
Hmm.
and I need you to pay close attention. I don't know
I'm
if you thought
listening.
about this before, but who played uh the scientist Loveless?
Kenneth Branagh.
No, no, sir. Sir Kenneth Charles Branagh, who is as British as you can get. He
Yes.
played the most Southern
Most Southern.
person that you could get.
Beautiful.
The
Yes.
two, the Brits at that time and the Southerners are the two people that hate the Union the most. So you get a person that's as British as they are in real life, or as can
Mhm.
be, playing the most Southern racist
Yes.
scientist that he could play.
That
It's like
accent
you're
was
getting the best
believable.
of both worlds. That
That
accent
accent
was
was
incredible. Again, overly done, just like Salma Hayek's acting and her yelling of the lines. I thought it was great. I thought the fact that they got a British guy to play him to do a Southern accent, it's like we're gonna double up. The Brits hate America.
yes.
The Confederates want to secede from the Union. You're getting, you're getting
Also, you
more
talking
for
about some
more bang
Inception
for your
type,
buck. It's some
some
Inception type
Inception
shit. That's
type
how I'm
shit.
looking at this, man. There's
Yeah.
levels to this. There's levels to this game, man.
All right. You want to know the notes that I took? Here. You ready for this? The one in big bold letters. This movie is terrible. 2 exclamation points. Unathletic Will Smith fight scene. And then he tries to do a kick, and I swear to God, he tore both his hamstrings. Negative 87% chemistry between Kevin Klein and Will Smith. Let me see. Salma Hayek is wasted. Only when they first showed her, then she started yelling. I was like, oh, she's terrible. No jokes landed between Loveless and West, which is still, here's the messed up part about that. As we stated, the best part of the movie. There was, and I think what made
Yeah, that'll happen when you're talking and your microphone disconnects. Now that you're not talking, though, I got something to say about that movie. By the way, some more flattering things to say about that movie. Um, no, I want to give you a chance. Okay, so speak of how, like, you say they had no chemistry, and I think it's the opposite. I think the movie, like their roles, they're supposed to not have chemistry, because one guy is thoughtful, he's a scientist, he has plans, he thinks things through, he never acts without a plan, never does anything rashly. Where Jim West is the opposite, right? Shoot first, ask questions later. And so they were not meant to have chemistry. Like those characters were meant to clash with each other, which is why on screen it might look like they have no chemistry at all, because it's not it's by design. They're not supposed to have chemistry. And as the movie goes on, you can tell that they get more and more comfortable with each other. And obviously, at the end of the movie, when they're going off to rescue the president, Will Smith or James West, you know, says, "Hey, no, we can't rush. This requires a plan." Which then kind of he throws it back at Gordon and says, "Hey, this calls for a plan, for more thought, for a man with your skill level." And he allows them to come
Yes.
up with a plan and how they're going to go rescue the president. So they're supposed to not have chemistry. Like, I don't think that they didn't have it. I think it's by design that it looked like they had none, because they weren't. They're two completely different personalities. Again,
Right, and I give you that,
not bad acting. I mean, bad acting, overly acted, but I think it was supposed to
it
be that
just
way.
I understand what you're saying, right? I think you're trying to rationalize a shitty movie, and I give you a lot of credit for that. But
Absolutely. I'm trying to do my best.
Arliss Lovelace and James West had better chemistry, and they're supposed to hate each other, right? Like you could be indifferent and not, but still have on camera chemistry. You know what I mean? Like like that's happened before. Where like The Rock and Jason Statham, right? In any other, like, they don't like each, but they're supposed
Yeah.
to not like each other. Vin Diesel and The Rock hate each other in real life. On
Yeah.
camera, they have amazing chemistry. Like, you could not
Yeah.
like it, but like you still need that. Like, oh, I want to root for this guy. Like, oh, this is funny because they're obviously complete opposites, but they never came across that way. Look, there's a reason this movie got 16% on Rotten Tomatoes. There's a reason why we give this movie why we made this movie our worst possible rating for the movies we see in the future, or TV shows we see in the future. And the like, all right, but like I said, like I asked you about the scientists, the people at the end of the movie that Will Smith is fighting, right? Where did they come from? At what point did I forget? Did I not see where
His
Loveless
henchmen.
was? Literally, literally, like,
You need
but he did.
people to maintain that giant spider, the mechanical spider he's riding on, right? You need to
Yeah,
people that are gonna like oil and lube the hinges and make sure that everything's working correctly. And
yeah,
and one
but
of
they
those
don't
guys just
become
happened to have
hinges
a
themselves,
metal
though.
skull.
Yeah,
You know
yo,
what I
did
really
you?
loved was his
Go ahead.
henchwomen, Munitia.
I was a big fan of that. Yeah, munition.
Munitia
Yeah,
was it's
munition.
it's apt.
How lazy of a name is that? Like,
I
hey, you
know
know what?
that was terrible.
Let's make
Her
it
name
let's
is
make it
Munitia
kind
because
of.
she's supposed to.
Yeah, she uses munition. Oh, it was so
Yeah,
ridiculous. It was insane, utterly insane. It just look, man. The the plot of it was to stop the spider that this he's building something because he kidnapped all these scientists. I would have loved the scene to, like, at least briefly show the scientists, like, in peril or
hmm
afraid or something, to, like, not just be like they walk up to this valley in the desert and they're like there's this whole city being built. I was like, nobody realized this shit was out there. Like, I understand everything is sparsely populated and all that shit. Just little scenes would have made the movie better.
it is the wild,
It
wild
was ridiculous.
west.
Yeah, but it's really not, though, right? Like, it took them 4 steps with a spider, and they were like in a town. I'm assuming there's not much noise pollution. They would have realized the metallurgy and the metal being built a couple miles down. Like, I live in the middle of nowhere. I could hear somebody's music from the street, and that's 4 miles away. Like,
Nah,
it's
but
not a
they're
stretch.
in a place where there's nothing for 50 miles, 60 miles. Like to this day, you go to places out in the west and there's nothing for 40 or 50 miles. So then imagine back then
Right.
before expansion. Again,
No, the movie
your
was so
point
terrible.
is your point is doesn't
I,
make
I like
sense.
how you're.
So
I like how you're
it's a
disputing
point for
every
me.
point. Like, there's a chance
I am.
you're gonna get this
I'm
movie
gonna
an
get
Oscar.
17% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's what I'm trying to do.
That seems like
60.5%.
this. All right. Last fight scene was stupid. The movie was terrible. It's the reason why we gave. Uh, it's the reason why we give movies in the future and shows in the future a Wild Wild West rating. Consensus is consensusly a word, because I feel like it should be. It should be
Consensusly is not a word,
consensus.
but you can use it if you want.
My head didn't blow up, so we're good. Yo, shout out to the fact that I just looked up at my head like it blew up though. Like, it's just
Like you'd be able to see it. What the?
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Listen,
yo, look, no, still there, still there. Yep,
I
we're
do
good.
agree with you though. The fight scenes, which I expected to be more of, there was like a lot of action scenes, maybe not fight scenes, but they were very very quick. Like when Will Smith got on the train and he got attacked by Lovelace's manservant. I don't know what he was, like his right hand man, the
Oh,
native, the
the Native
chief.
American guy. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and that lasted about 25 seconds. And then even the fights with his henchmen and all these other things, like they were very quick fight scenes or action
There
scenes.
was no threat of
Um,
loss. Yeah,
no, there was
like
nothing.
there's
So
it just
for a
didn't
movie
like
that's supposed to
Kevin
have action,
Klein.
it didn't have much.
Here's another part that didn't make sense. Kevin Klein's just watching, right? Like Jim West is fighting six people, and Kevin Klein's up there like, oh man, that's standing next to Loveless, and they're just watching the fight. Like, oh man, that's crazy. Oh damn. Yeah, James West is getting his ass whooped. That looks like it hurts there. He got hit with a wrench and then just that does one thing, shoots Loveless in the knee and like spills out
Right.
all the fluid. That's it. That's all he does. Just stands there. Doesn't do anything else. Doesn't bring it like it was absurd. Kevin Kline is wasted in this movie. And I like Kevin Kline. Kevin Kline was also a person that I had to Google to make sure he still had a career after Wild Wild West, which
After
he had a
Wild
very
Wild
good career.
West.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
that's how poorly I remember this movie, and I'm completely traumatized by it because of how bad it was. Now, a little story that I did learn from Twitter. Shout out to the guy by the name of Big Nick on Twitter. He let me know of the Kevin Smith story about the spider. That was originally written for a Superman Lives movie that was supposed to be directed by Tim Burton, where like the last fight scene is Superman that with like no cape, just like a regular dude
Hmm.
fighting a big ass spider, and then like 2 years later, a similar script which ended up being Wild Wild West, and then that's where they threw in the big spider because some producer just wanted to have a big ass spider in a movie. Like that's insane.
Again,
Like that
and that maybe that's true, but again, like the train that they rode on, the
yeah,
Wanderer, and all
yeah.
the things that the train had, all these steampunk uh,
It was an homage to
motifs.
steampunk. Yeah,
So I definitely love that, and it's actually this movie is it's seen by many as like the first movie on the big screen that really like detailed and depicted what's the steampunk is. So there's been other movies, I guess, but maybe not on the big screen. But this was it. At least, especially when you're talking about American Western or American Western steampunk movies. So I was watching it from that lens, which is why I wasn't so critical of the acting. Even the second time around when I went to watch it, um, I mean, I'm someone that watched the show on Sci-Fi on the Sci-Fi Network called Warehouse 13, where they incorporated a lot of
just
H.G. Wells and steampunk stuff, and
respect that show.
so
Respect that was a
and
good
so
show.
I definitely like that part. The acting not so much, but it was acted terribly by everybody, which makes me
Everybody.
believe that either no one had chemistry or it was meant to be done that way, and like
Yeah,
it just
like
went over everyone's head.
there's no redeemable acting, and like usually we've seen a lot of bad movies. Like the reason why we give the rating Wild Wild West in future shows is because Will Smith was our actor of the '90s, right? It's who we grew up on.
Right.
Basically, our whole childhood is formulated by this guy. That's why we're so disappointed that he did such a terrible job in this movie.
Hmm.
But the other actors are incredible, well-established actors themselves. Like Salma Hayek has been acting ever since, and way before that. Like when Salma Hayek came on screen, I think the first time ever was in the Quentin Tarantino, where she was a vampire, Dust Till Dawn. Like I
Yeah,
mean, just jumps off the screen. Kevin
absolutely.
Kline in and out. I think that he won an Oscar for where he plays the again. I'm not spoiling a movie from like 25 years ago
I
where he
don't
plays
think
like
so.
a gay teacher and is outed by like one of the students that he taught. It's like great in that. I mean,
That's right.
he's done Kenneth Branagh, a phenomenal actor in his own right, and for all of them to be utterly trash. Like Ted Levine was on Monk for however long Monk was on because he was like the
Yeah,
captain of the show, and I love Monk. Monk is a great show that was on USA.
yeah,
This movie was utter trash by the standard that these actors have. I know
absolutely
steampunk
not.
western and the lens that
Steampunk
I have
Western,
because I'm so so much
British
more
Southern
cultured.
scientist. You guys, you're just
No,
not seeing it from the right lens. You're just not
Yeah,
seeing
yeah.
this
Well,
right.
I use the lens, my optical lens
You need
that's in
to.
my
You're
brain.
still in the
No,
matrix. Is what I'm telling you.
yeah. Listen. I will unplug just like my microphone did in the middle of this fucking podcast. But that's
I
just
agree.
I will no. I'm done.
Which is what
I
we
got
should do for the
I
pod right now. We should unplug it for this episode.
unplug it. Yes, that's the rating going on from now on, guys. Now you understand. Give you a whole pod explaining why we rate future shows or movies Wild Wild West. Hopefully there won't be too many, because then those are hours that we won't ever get back. But for future ratings, you know why Wild Wild West is something you should avoid at all costs.
Maybe.
Thanks for listening to Streamophile. Directed by John. Executive producer Ben and John. Created by Ben and John. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Okay.
We back, we back, we back, back.
Yes, we are back.
Boom, 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 boom.
What are you doing, man?
I have no idea, but honestly, that's like the only beatboxing I can do. That's what's sad about that shit. Like boom, 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 boom. That's all I get.
I
That's
don't
it.
want to hear that. Don't do that
there's
ever again.
there's no Biz Marquee in here.